Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second session today of the Info Day of Cluster 4. In this session, we will talk about raw materials for EU open strategic autonomy and successful transition to a climate neutral and circular economy. My name is Daniel Cios and I work in DG Grow, the DG responsible for internal market, industry, entrepreneurship, and SMEs, in the unit responsible for energy intensive industries and raw materials. And I will start with a short introduction, introducing you to the research and innovation dimension of raw materials policy. Then I will make a short presentation on each of the topics. And then we will go to the Q&A session where you can post questions on Slido, and me and my thematic colleagues will provide you with answers to all your questions and comments and doubts that you have on what you saw in the text and here today in the presentation. So welcome very much, and I will now go to the introductory part. In my opening, I want to give you some insight on the preparation of the first program in Cluster 4. Our starting point was the strategic security of sustainable supplies of resources for Europe's ambition to deliver the Green Deal. Breakthrough technologies that will enable the green and digital transition will require significant supplies of various raw materials, including critical raw materials. In 2020, we found ourselves in the COVID-19 pandemic. EU supply chains were disrupted, resulting in shortages of products or raw materials, accompanied by peaking prices for European producers and consumers. These disruptions showed us that the EU has strategic dependencies, especially on third countries. Thus, the need for raw materials securing supplies became even more evident. In result, the Commission updated this year its industrial strategy with an analysis of strategic dependencies and stating the urgent need to increase resilience of the EU raw material supply chain, metals and minerals, through access to resources and also sustainability. Now, we have reflected on this also in the action plan on critical raw materials that we presented last September in 2020. We put forward 10 actions to build resilient EU value chains and open strategic autonomy while being more circular and reducing environmental and social impact of resource use. Now, research and innovation is part of the solution on reducing our dependence and creating EU autonomy in sourcing of raw materials. Through our research and innovation program, we can finance research on waste processing, recovery of critical raw materials, improving the efficiency, safety, environmental performance of the extractive industry. We also have calls for proposals addressing circularity of resources, recycling and substitution, the supply of secondary critical raw materials from EU stocks and waste will be mapped. Under the first work program 21-22, we have allocated around 300 million euros for raw materials research. This is half of the money we had in the full Horizon 2020. Now, in these 2 years, we will fund 13 topics and expect around 30 projects to be funded. The first round 2021 is already closed. We are now looking at the project proposals, and the second year, 2022, is open, and now we will discuss, present to you these topics from 2022. We have 7 topics entitled that you can see here on the slide. I will go through each one of them, explaining the policy background that is behind all this, because Horizon Europe is contributing to our policy objectives and the Green Deal. So all of the projects have a specific contribution to our policy, both the Green Deal and horizontal policies that I will mention in my presentation. I will go now to the first call for proposal. Let me just try to change the slide. Yes, there we are. So the topic Resilience 0102, monitoring and supervising system for exploration and future exploitation activities in the deep sea. We have a big budget here, 14 million euros, and we expect one project to be funded. This is a research and innovation action with the TRL at the end of the project from 3 to 5. Generally, this topic is open. There are no restrictions to which countries can participate. The other raw materials projects have that restriction in the eligibility criteria, so please be very careful about this. I will go to these eligibility criteria in the next topic, since this one is open with the general rules. And under this topic, we expect this topic contributes to our biodiversity strategy, under which we also intend to monitor the environmental impact on the activities in the sea. And specifically, this topic will help us to develop a monitoring system and technology to monitor the environmental impacts, and mitigation methods of future deep sea exploration and potentially future mining activity. So we are aware that such monitoring system does not exist yet, and our goal is to be a front runner here to have technology that will help us monitor the potential environmental impacts of any activity in the deep sea when it comes to exploration and future exploitation of raw materials. Now, this project is very important when it comes to environmental impacts, and we specifically ask the project to cooperate with the International Seabed Authority and specifically the Legal and Technical Commission, and take into account the legal framework when it comes to the seabed and ocean floor and subsoil. Because this is beyond the limits of national jurisdiction. So please be aware that with this project you need to cooperate with the International Seabed Authority, and that is one of the requirements on this topic. And if you decide to use Earth observation satellite-based Earth observation, positioning, navigation, you should use Copernicus and/or Galileo in your project. So this is quite important to pay attention to. I will go now to the second topic that I want to present. It's Resilience 0103. Streamlining cross-sectoral policy framework throughout the extractive life cycle in environmentally protected areas. So this is not a technology project. This is a coordination and support action, CSA. We expect one project here worth 2.4 million euros. No TRL here is allocated because this is not a technology project. And now, what I mentioned in my previous topic, the eligible countries. So please be aware that the countries listed here are only eligible to participate. So it's of course EU member states, associated countries, OECD countries, African Union, Mercosur, CARIFORUM, and Andean community. So we have this requirement that the participants can be only from this group of countries. So please have this in mind when looking wider for international cooperation on the raw materials. Now, we have this project because permitting is one of the issues which deserves more attention, because there is a need for more efficient, effective, but also transparent permitting procedures throughout the mineral extraction life cycle in environmentally protected areas. So we expect a project to look at the legislative framework when it comes to the permitting procedures and prepare good practices in the permitting procedures, and perform a review and disseminate that information among EU, national, and regional authorities, also the industries and civil society, and to cover this area and organize trainings as well with the results of the projects when it comes to the permitting procedures. So this was This is CSA. Now we go to topic Resilience 0104, developing digital platforms for the small scale extractive industry. So here we look at the digital side of the green and digital transition. So here we expect to develop digital solutions for the industry, particularly for SMEs. And the total budget for the call is 15 million. We expect 3 projects worth around 5 million euros. This is an innovation action, and you are expected to achieve the TRL level 6 to 7. Again, the eligible countries, it's the same like in the previous topic, so the same group of countries, and please remember about this one. And this project, the results, well, we see that the amount of data generated by the companies is just growing, and there is also a need to have more data, and there are more devices to provide that data. So we want here to to develop digital platforms and applications that will help, especially the small scale operators, to have these platforms that will enable them, like the data gathering, storage, and then dissemination, yeah, both to the industry but also to the wider public, and to have this also not only easier decision making for the companies, but also to make the dialogue more transparent, especially with the citizens, and raising awareness about the raw materials activity and the information the companies have and can provide in an easier and more accessible format. So this was the digital topic. Now we move to Resilience 0105. Technological solutions for tracking raw materials flows in complex supply chains. So this topic comes from as our, let's say, implementation of the battery regulation proposal, where the Commission proposes traceability of battery raw materials used for batteries. So we intend this project to develop technologies that will help in the traceability and transparency of the supply chain, including the battery supply chain. And so we have 13.5 million for this for this call, and we expect 1 project. It's a research and innovation action with the final TRL 3 to 5. Again, the eligible countries are the same as in the previous 2 projects. So basically, we want the project to improve the supply chain and data transparency and traceability, and set up technological solutions for tracking the raw materials flows, and also identify and address the gaps in the due diligence process, and have comparable criteria for reporting and audit approaches, because we see there are different schemes, and it would be good to gather that and have a common one approach. We expect the project to cover 5 supply chains. Now, one of those supply chains specifically mentioned in the text needs to be the battery value chain. The other 4, it's up to the project consortium, to the applicant to decide based on their assessment. But the battery one has to be included in your proposal. So that's quite important. We go to the next one. Resilience 0106, sustainable and innovative mine of the future. So here we focus on the primary raw materials, extraction activity particularly. This is a innovation action, so we expect TRL 6 to 7 at the end of the project. We have 36 million euros for this call, with 3 projects worth around 12 million euros. And the same eligibility criteria when it comes to the countries. So in principle, we expect the project results to reduce the environmental impact of extractive and processing value chains, and also look at the digital solutions and automations that can be used in the mining sector. And we also expect the project to contribute to more safer, environmentally friendly resource and production efficient mining activities. And that will be all for this topic. We go to the topic 0107, innovative solutions for efficient use and enhanced recovery of mineral and metal byproducts from processing of raw materials. So this is a metallurgy topic. It is also an innovation action, TRL 6 and 7 at the end of the project. We have the budget 36 million euros and expect 3 projects worth around 12. And also the same eligible countries apply here. So basically here you look at recovery of mineral and metal byproducts, yeah, from the processing cycle, and this applies to, and we don't cover here the we cover here the non-fuel and non-food raw materials. So please remember that plastic is not a priority in this project. And also I received the other day a question, is sea mining included in this project? So I would also want to say that sea mining does not fall under this scope, because this is a metallurgical topic. And I also want to highlight that the biomaterials don't fall under the scope of the project, because we are focusing about mineral processing and or metallurgical technologies. So if you intend to look at biomass, this is not in the scope of the project. Just to give you some feedback of what we already disseminated from the questions we got earlier. And recycling of end-of-life products is also excluded from this topic. And the last call, 0108, Earth observation technologies for the mining life cycle in support of autonomy and transition to a climate economy. So here we look at facilitating the use and application of Earth observation technologies in the raw materials area. And so Earth observation and Copernicus, and also so the budget is 13.5 million. We expect 3 topics, so 4.5 per each around, and the same eligible countries apply as before. And please note that you need to use Copernicus and Galileo when it comes to the Earth observation system. This is also a eligibility requirement. And I think that would be all from my side at this point. I think I can close the presentation now, and think it's the time when we go to your questions. So I will move to Slido. I hope that the computer is able to manage that without any problems. I'm still waiting on my side, so the screen refreshes. Maybe I do it this way. And I will make the full screen. Okay, I think we are at the full screen. Okay, so I see question from John Einen from Netherlands on the topic 0103. So let me just go. That is the topic. Streamlining cross-sectoral policy framework. Okay, so that's the CAN and CSA. And the list of eligible countries? Do you have an example of a non-eligible country? Which ones are not member of all these organizations? So as you rightly spotted, this is a quite wide list. So basically, we want to have the international participation as wide as possible, and these are the countries with which we have institutional relations on the EU level, and we are open to cooperating with them further on this. So basically, there are not that many countries that actually would be non-eligible, and well, we developed this list based on the critical raw materials action plan and the idea of boosting the international cooperation with resource-rich countries. So this is the idea of having this criteria here. I would not maybe like to mention particular countries, not to raise any doubts by giving specific names. That's why also we included the list of groupings of countries, not to raise any controversies here. I see a question, Resilience 0105 from anonymous applicant. Why does the call ask for TRL 3.3 and 5? Yeah, technological solutions, okay, for tracking raw materials flows at the end of the project, given that there already exist multiple technological solutions and tools for supply chain transparency at TRL 5 and 7. Well, we are aware that there are existing different schemes as well and new ones are being developed. Our idea is to have one that would focus specifically on the raw materials side and cover the full value chain, yeah, of the supply chain. And by putting the requirement into the battery regulation proposal, we intend also to support the industry and the research community by giving also a possibility of EU funding for implementing such solutions that are required by the regulation proposal. Next question from Mr. Anatoly Babenya. So how we create the eligible country selector web app for you. So that slides could directly link to the relevant lists. So when it comes to the eligible countries, you would just need to check which countries are eligible or non-eligible, and these lists of countries are quite easy to be checked on the website. Yeah, for OECD, African Union, these groupings, institutionalized groupings, they usually easily have on their first site, or that's easily to be found on the internet, which countries fall under that scope. And as far as I'm aware, in the first 2021 calls, we didn't have any problems in this from the applicants, because this was already applied for the 2021 call. Let me just check which questions I still haven't answered. Resilience 0105 is the focus of the call, rather on the technological side, developing software and tools, or on the content side, standards, certifications, reporting, and auditing schemes. Let me just quickly go to that call. Well, this is both, yes. Because on the one side, you are expected to develop the software and the tools, of course, but we should also check the criteria for reporting and audit approaches, right? So you need to take this into consideration when developing this tool, because you cannot create a tool that will help you help in the tracking of the raw materials if you don't know which standards are you follow. So you need to build up on comparable criteria, reporting and audit approaches. Yes, and this will be the answer. I see a question from anonymous person 0107. So that is on the innovative solutions for efficient use and enhanced recovery of mineral. We have developed Fiona process using certain types of plants which extract specific rare minerals from contaminated soils. This also then improves the health of the soil. Is this in the scope of the call? I'm not sure, do we have Milan Grochol here from our team?
Yes. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you, Milan.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Daniel. This topic 107 is related to the recovery of byproducts from the mainstreams. One of the most important impact which we expect is to unlock substantial reserves or resources of raw materials. Whereas in the past we had several proposals on phytomining, none of them was able to prove that actually it improved the supply of raw materials to the EU. They were much more focused just on cleaning the soils, and so this is a different focus a little bit here. This may, of course, maybe fit under environmentally focused topics, but this one is to improve the recovery of byproducts of specialty metals, for example, from the main processing streams, and to reduce the waste of them.
Okay, thank you very much, Milan. I see another question, Resilience 0105, covering 5 critical raw material supply chains will require to involve a huge number of partners. Is there any advice to reduce the number of partners and build a more manageable consortium? Do we need to involve, oops, the question disappeared. Okay, I've managed to read that question, so I will reply to that. So it is the topic on the technological solutions for tracking raw materials flows. So indeed, you have to cover 5 value chains, which is a lot. But then again, we are aware that this will be a big exercise. That's why we dedicated 13.5 million for this research and innovation action. So we expect results, and we know we expect a lot of results. But then again, we also give you more funds than we usually do for an innovation action here. So we expect the project to follow the 5 value chains, and it's up to the project consortia to decide on the partners. The traceability has to be from the beginning to the end of supply chain, and this traceability should enable consumers and downstream producers to have the information. So it's up to the project consortia to define what would be necessary to involve as a project partner. And it's totally up to the consortia to decide on this one. Let me just check if there are other questions I haven't still seen. Okay, I see Resilience 0103. What is the rationale behind including all those third countries in the eligible countries when the topic description does not highlight international cooperation aspects? Will covering third countries be assessed positively? So that is the topic on the CSA, Streamlining Cross-Sectoral Policy Framework. And in principle, this focus on the EU, but we put also the international aspect because the activities on the project can also cover address other countries that are eligible. So we decided that if there are countries that would like to be involved as well, have some good practices in the permitting procedures, we would welcome that. So we don't limit ourselves here just to the EU member states. We go also to the countries as well if there is some good standards, good practices that could be shown, promoted to the EU stakeholders, and we are very open to having this. I don't see any new questions. Do we have any more questions?
I see there is one on from Anonymous. What is expected TRL at the project start for these calls? So we don't define the starting TRL.
Okay, and then I see a question for the topic on traceability. We need a flexible mechanism to involve additional companies along supply chains during project implementation. Can we use a mechanism like cascading funding for around 10% of the project budget to involve companies in a flexible way? I don't know if the horizontal colleagues here in the team are able to reply when it comes to the cascading funding mechanism when applying to a project. Okay, I think we don't have anybody specifically who would be able to answer this right now. I propose that we take this question in our notes from the meeting, and we include this in the FAQ on the Horizon website. So please follow this. Resilience 26 and 29. The topic description is exactly the same. Those are not the topics we are discussing here. So these are not, unless maybe you misspelled the numbers 26 and 29, but we are discussing here from 03 to 08. So I'm not able to reply to those questions at this point. I think that comes from the from the advanced materials, but I'm not able to. We are not able here to answer these questions on these two topics you presented. Do we have any more questions? So please remember that the deadline is for application is 30th of March. So Resilience 0105. So that's the traceability topic. Is standardization, ISO, an important issue in the topic? Let me just check if that is mentioned clearly in the text. Well, you should it should be based upon comparable criteria reporting and audit approaches. So You can include the ISO, of course, in your project proposal if you see that as an important element of your project proposal. And also, yes?
Maybe I can add a little bit to this one. Under different ISO technical committees, there are already tasks ongoing on standardization of tracking of the value chain. So we know for certain critical raw materials that it already happens, or there are some developments. So it would be welcome that this work is taken on board.
Thank you, Milan. I don't see any new questions. Let's wait a bit. Maybe we will see a new question if somebody already sent it. So we are still waiting. I see. Okay, but it's again the question we cannot answer because it relates to the course that not fall under our remit. So we wait for more questions. I propose maybe that we still wait half a minute to see if there are other questions from the participants. If not, then we would finish the session then. So we still wait half a minute, and you still have time to submit your questions. Otherwise, we will be going to the end of the session. Okay, I see that there are many questions. Why some does not inform the moderator? So a question to the colleagues who are checking the moderation. Please check if everything is okay with the Slido system. I think we had it arranged that all questions from Slido come to the screen. So
there is maybe one question on the deadlines and 1 or 2 stage calls. If you could repeat the submission deadlines and clarify with 1 or 2 stage calls.
So the deadline is 30th of March for these topics. So you have still 4 months to apply. And Milan, you had the second one. You said
it's 1 or 2 stage call.
These are 1 stage calls. If I'm not mistaken, it should be written also in the criteria on the website. But as far as I remember, these are 1 stage calls. We didn't have any 2 stage calls for raw materials.
A new topic. Would data mining research be eligible in?
So this is
106
sustainable innovative mine of the future. Data mining research. Well, I would say this way, like if from the digital and automation point of view, which needs to be addressed on the topics, if that that could be a component somehow using the data, yeah, but that wouldn't be maybe the primary focus of the project. That could be a component, right, under the digitalization and automation of raw materials production. Okay, these topics on the screen we already answered. These ones as well. I saw something change, but these ones you already have.
Maybe ask to identify the person, because the question on topics 1, 26, and 29 is repeating all the time. It's coming again and again.
What I understand now, I think we just get the questions that are top questions, right? Because I see indeed there are top questions. It says 16, but we always get the repeating ones who have the most likes, yeah, or hands up. So I think that is the reason why we don't see all questions, because I understand there are 16 questions in total in the.
No, this question has been asked 3 times already.
Yes.
But this is not for this panel.
I propose the following. I will stop sharing the screen and go to the Slido moderator and check for other questions. So I see the questions in the system. What is the expected TRL at the project start for these calls? Milan, maybe you could.
We said that we don't specify the starting TRL of the projects. What we define is the finishing TRL range.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I checked in the chat. I see on the Slido website, and these are all questions that we have there. So I think these are all the questions we got from the participants online. Let's wait a bit. To check if there is anything new. I think something changed in the chat. Let me just check. Okay, nothing new so far. I propose half a minute for the participants to make sure there are no questions, and then I think we would be finishing the session. So we wait a bit and check if there are any more questions. Okay, I'm still don't see anything. So from my side, just wanted to confirm that the deadline is 30th of March for your proposals. So please work on your proposal. And we are aware that during the pandemic, it might be the easiest to look for new project partners and develop the consortia. So we hope that will be possible to for you to prepare a good proposal and create a good consortium, although the pandemic constraints we have. I don't see a new question, so I think we will stop at this point. So from my side, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your participation, for your questions. We hope we were able to answer you in a way that is supportive for you and makes it clear of what is expected and what to include or not in your project proposals. So from my side, that will be all. Thank you very much, and well, we're looking for your project proposals after they are submitted. So that's all from our side, from the Commission. Thank you very much.